Hello everyone, first, and thank you for joining the session. I know that it's the last one, the last day, so maybe it's a little bit tough for some of us, but I'll try to be quick and entertain you during the whole time. And yeah, I know that we have some tasks to do after this. My name is Peter Filipov, and I'm one of the product managers for Sitefinity. And my main focus actually is to extend Sitefinity ecosystem in terms of integrations, connectivity, and all of that stuff that comes around. So, how was the party last night? Good, good. Okay, great. Something that I noticed last night was that no one was dancing. And usually technical people are very good at dancing. I mean, it's like, I was looking for those moves last night, so today's session will be like a dance lesson. Yeah, it's a really cool video. So we are going to learn how to dance, or we are just getting a dance lesson today. And I mean, to become as good as Steve Ballmer and the other guys, we need to learn the first steps. So I'll be showing you actually what are the extensibility and integration points into Sitefinity, and actually how we can package them. At the end, how we can get some exposure on Sitefinity Marketplace. So high level, and the takeaway of this session is we want to drive the community, actually to start be more proactive and to renew our marketplace. So first I will start with technical stuff, and then we can look more from business side. So how many of you are technical people? And how many of you are business? Okay, I think we have good balance here. So I'll be showing some code, and at the end of the session, I'll just wake up the business people for the essence. First, I will start with the extensibility points and integrations, and what is possible in Sitefinity. How many of you are, I will start with the widgets, and I'll jump to a demo. So my presentation will be just one slide demo. It will be more interactive. So how many of you are actually extending the widgets, the built-in widgets of Sitefinity? Only 1, 2, 3. Okay. How many of you are extending the front-end part of the widgets? Everyone. And how many of you are extending the model of the widgets? Okay. So I'll just show you the idea of the widgets, how to be extended. We're not going to deep dive into the code, but just to give you an idea. So usually our widgets are placed here, and they come with the project. I'm not going to show you actually how to implement the widget or something like this, but the essence is that the views of our widgets are shipped with the product. So everything that is rendered on the front end, actually you have access to it. You can go and change it, you can put some colors, you can do some stuff. And this is the presentation layer. But when it comes for something more technical, and you want to change the whole model, what is persisted into the database, and etc., you need somehow to substitute our current implementation, and you need to go and execute a few lines of code, which I want to show you. I'll just close this one. Let me open the right project. Here it is. And this is the file. Usually, all of our source code of the widgets is on GitHub. So you can go there and you can find what are the implementations and what actually every model from the MVC, how it's implemented. And you can get a sense of the basic implementation. So you can actually inherit. This is actually the news model. That's behind what's happening behind the scene for the news widget. And I'm just inheriting this model, and I'm creating a property. And at the end, if I want to hook it up into the system, and after this start to change the implementation, I'm using a dependency injection here, just to say, hey, if you are working with news with the news widget, just substitute the current the current implementation with my custom one. So all of this we have it. All my talk will be, I will reference some resources, so it's not going to be something abstract. You can find information out there or reference samples. So we are actually having a new version of our development course for the foundations of Sitefinity, and you can find all of the information there. We are going to how to extend the widgets from the front end part, and how you actually extend them from the back end part. So you can find the materials in the online, and you can take the course, and it's free. So you can watch all the videos and you can get the samples from there. So usually when people are developing widgets, most of the time they are developing them into a separate projects. They are just reference to Sitefinity. So it's really easy to distribute them. At the end, it's just a DLL which is compiled, and you just ship it with your project. So pretty straightforward. And in case that you want to change something, you can do it. I mean, if you want to change, let's say, the front-end part of your custom widgets, you can do it directly into the Sitefinity instance. So next slide. I just want to give you, I'll show you a sample, how it works, so you can get a sense what was the business goal of it. And then I will go and speak about every piece of this sample, how it actually was implemented. So you'll get an idea how we are tidying up different extension points of the platform. So what we've done, we implemented one module into Sitefinity which is called Cognitive Services. It sounds cool, there is AI, I mean that we are in the hype. So now I'll click on the news and I will open one news. Usually, how AI can actually help a marketer. Most of the time, the marketers are setting some meta information for the content, and actually this can be done through AI. Like you just send the content, I'll just demonstrate this one. You just send the content to a specific endpoint, and the AI actually generating the categories or the hashtags, whatever you want to call them, and you can add it directly into your content items. So actually you're not doing any kind of work here, you're just clicking a button. Also we are generating suggested summary, and we see this useful especially for the cases when you have personalization, because it's really hard to have so many variations of your content for the specific personas. So you can actually generate at least some content, some pieces of the content, so you can speed up the marketer. So that's how we see the usage of AI for this case. Another usage actually is with images. Usually people are uploading images to your website, so you want to verify that there is no inappropriate content, it's tagged properly. So all of this could be done again through AI services. So in our case, I'm using Azure Vision. I'll open let me open the images. I will actually do a live demo for this. And the previous one was live. So let me upload an image. I will upload this image. I'll push it. And what we are actually doing here, we're just sending the image to Azure. Azure is bringing us some metadata, and then we're just mapping those fields to the Sitefinity system. So if I open the image here, you see that the tags are auto-generated and the alternative text. And it's pretty accurate, I would say. It's like cartoon, Lego. Okay, that's not Lego, but it's some kind of a puzzle here, and maybe this is a toy, yes. So all that stuff, it's very handy when it comes at scaling, especially when you're working with hundreds of images every day. So to plug those functionalities into Sitefinity, we are using different pieces of the platform where we are just implementing those specific integrations. So let me try to break down the whole sample, and I'll show you how we actually did it. And all this is on GitHub. We have some blog posts about it. If you search in our GitHub repository, you will find it there. And you can download it, just build it, and it's going to work. First, the first part actually of creating something monolithic, you want to ship it as an integration or some kind of an implementation, most of the time you need to set it up. So you need to have access to the settings. So usually in Sitefinity, everything goes here. Sitefinity, Quantum, cognitive services. So those are my credentials here. So you can take a picture and reuse it afterwards. Those are the credentials. And usually, if I look at the code that represents the settings, it's pretty simple. I will just open this one. And let me navigate to the project. And usually I'm just instantiating a module into Sitefinity. So the module is just an entity which gives you an opportunity to plug into the system and somehow abstract your implementation into one whole thing. So we have a flow actually how to create a module into Sitefinity. And the first part actually is to provide some kind of a setting, specific settings, because 99% of the time people need to set something up. So if I navigate to this code, you see that it's just the inheritance of a class and you define some properties. It's just, there is no thinking here. You just follow the pattern at the end. So the next thing that I want to talk about are the modules actually. So how many of you actually created a module, custom module? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'll just give you again a brief overview of the module. So the module is, we are using Sitefinity. I mean, when you want to use Sitefinity as a platform, you want to plug some kind of a custom functionality, actually you need to go through a module. This is just an abstraction into Sitefinity. At the end, what you're doing in terms of technical stuff, you actually inherit one abstract class, which is called module base, and you need to implement some methods. So don't worry if you see that there are tons of stuff here. Most of it, you can just copy paste it from a sample. So you can kickstart from it. And there are specific configurations about the module, in what kind of event you need to hook it up, but everything is documented, so you can find it out. For those of you that already are building modules, we are introducing a new functionality actually into Sitefinity 12 that gives you the ability to mark your assembly with a specific attribute, and then you don't need some parts of this code here. So you don't need to copy paste something from the documentation. So we make it a little bit smarter. I would say, well, not a little bit, much smarter. But with that kind of an attribute, you just mark your assembly. And if you put something into your bin folder, you will, the system automatically will recognize that this is a module and we need actually to go and install it into Sitefinity. So you can enable it after this with click of a button into the backend. So because some of you said that they are not using custom modules, I want to give you a good sense how this looks like in the backend. Let me open this here. So here it is. Once I reference the project, it will appear in the backend, and I can actually have some kind of actions here. I can deactivate, uninstall, and everything will just disappear. So there are different building blocks of this sample that I showed with the cognitive stuff. Also, because of the nature of the module and the nature of Sitefinity, you can hook up to different events through the event hub of Sitefinity, and you can substitute some of the functionalities. For example, to analyze the pictures that I'm sending to Azure, I'm creating a custom handler which actually re-implements some of the functionalities where I click the button and the image is is in Sitefinity. So again, different pluggability points into Sitefinity allows us actually to plug custom code and to build on top of what we consider as basic functionality. I'm sorry. Usually those modules are implemented into separate projects, of course, so you can have your tests, you can build it, and then you just reference it to Sitefinity. The best practice actually is to code it against empty instance of Sitefinity, so you can test it, you can upgrade the instance to the version that you are using, so you can have the parity of the module with the latest version of Sitefinity, so you are not using some kind of an old API of Sitefinity. That's the essence. Any questions? Did I confuse you about those modules? It seems very interesting, I think, and simple or not. Questions? No questions. Okay. Another pluggability point into Sitefinity, the forms functionality. I'll just fly to it. I'm not going to show you any code. I don't want to, yeah. It seems that we are not diving today so deep into the code. So the forms actually, when you submit something, we have many scenarios where people want to send this information to any kind of a third-party marketing automation system. Marketo, HubSpot, Eloqua, you name it. Usually we have connectors that are built in, but also there are so many platforms today that you cannot cover them. It's just insane. And what we did actually, we opened the Forms API, and actually Steve, he showed a sample in his session yesterday, or was it on Monday? Yeah, 2 days ago, time flies. So actually the Forms, the API is open, so you can actually build that connector yourself. So in case that there you want to build, I mean, you want to hook to, let's say, Pardot or MailChimp, you can use it. But we have a sample for MailChimp, so you can just open it on GitHub. Let me open this URL. And you can download the sample from GitHub, and usually this is we're using our forms to create a subscription form for your users on the website. So in terms of flexibility, we are trying actually to give you the opportunity to build whatever you want, because at some point we cannot deliver so many connectors. I mean, we cannot deliver 100 connectors. So we need to give you some kind of enablers where you can actually put something on top. So that's about the forms. The cognitive sample is on GitHub. The MailChimp sample is on GitHub. So you can find all those samples there. So it's not something fictional that I'm just trying to explain. Another part, machine translation. How many of you are using multilingual? 1, 2 people. Okay. I think, guys, I'm targeting you with this session all the time. Yeah. So, machine translation. We last year we introduced machine translation API. So for those of you that are not supporting multilingual, but you have some plans, I think this will be excited too, not only for those guys here. Because with the machine translation API, we're giving you a pluggability point where you can actually get the content and send it to some service. Google Translate, you name it, whatever service you want, you can send the content and you can translate it immediately. So for your convenience, because we are not building only APIs and saying, okay, everything is possible, but you do it, we actually implemented a connector. Let me open it. It's called Systran machine translation. Systran is it's a good engine. It's one of the established vendors on the market, and it's really, they have SDKs, etc. But the bottom line is that with, let me count, 56 lines of code, you are actually having a connector that it's sending the content to Systran, and it's giving you back the translation immediately. So you are actually avoiding any kind of waiting time until someone else, let's say an agency, is doing your translation or someone else. So it's very handy from our standpoint. And at the end, here what we are doing, actually we are just, there are 2 methods. You need first to inherit the machine translation connector. So if you see that something is underlined, that's because I removed some references and I play with the sample just before the demo, so it's working, no worries. So what we are doing here, we are initializing the connector, and then there is one method here which is called translate, obviously, which you are just iterating to all the inputs. You're sending the input, I mean our content from Sitefinity to the service. The service return the translation, you stack it up into one list variable, and you're good to go. So how this looks like into Sitefinity. Let me open again. Let's see. There is some kind of error. Maybe this old link slash Sitefinity. It's pretty convenient, especially for marketers which maybe they know the language, but it's hard to go and start translating everything from scratch. The machine translation and the connector can give you a very solid base. You can start, let's say, editing some of the stuff that doesn't make sense. But as a person who is speaking two languages and the English is not my native, I think those services are becoming awesome at some point. As, for example, Google Translate. And you can plug this code into Google Translate if you want. Let me open an item. Actually, what you're doing, even from the menu here, you can even do it. You can just send for translation. I can choose Spanish. I can choose the System machine translation connector and send it. That's it. That's what I did. And after a second, the response is back, and I have the translation. It's pretty simple, and I think it's very powerful. Any questions about the machine translation?
Peter?
Yeah?
Can you go and further translate and refine since there may be some contacts that are out of place with the machine translation?
Can
you go back to what was just translated and modify it further?
I'm not quite sure. Do you want me to navigate?
Just send something to be translated to Spanish?
Yeah.
When it comes back, are you able to further modify just in case you wanted a human to look at it?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely send over, because my item actually was published. It's going to be published, but you can actually just save the item as a draft or just send it for approval. So you can, because it comes immediately, it's just a second. You just refresh the page and the content is there. You can go and revise it. So I think it's just a matter of how you're going to define your workflow. And let's say if you're having staging and production server, you can do whatever you want on the staging server and use SiteSync to push the content. Yeah, I don't know if you're using SiteSync, and most of the people does. So. So it depends on the server and the vertical of your business. Because if you are, let's say, in healthcare, maybe you need to use a specific service that is very good in this vertical. And because those kind of services are out of our control, and I mean, you need to train them, and I mean, this is based also on the vendor. Like if you're using with Google Translate, if you're using System and all that stuff. So it's very different, and it depends on the case. So I mean, I personally cannot say, hey, this is very accurate or not, because it's a broad range of varieties.
Yeah, it seems important to have someone that speaks that or knows that language to review it.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is going to boost the whole productivity, because you're not going to start translating everything from scratch, and gives you a very good baseline for this. Yes?
What about a translation memory database with machine learning? So like if you're in a specific industry, knowing what certain things potentially mean based on that industry.
So let me open the code for you, just to iterate how it actually works. So we are not doing any kind of analysis. We are acting more as a proxy here. So we are saying, hey, this is the content, this is the service here. Go and give us the answer. So we are sending this to the service. The service is giving back the answer, and we are outputting the answer. So in this part here, you can plug the middleman, and if you want, you can do some kind of analysis, and you can, I mean, it depends on your use case and how you want to do it. So, yeah, so we are trying to stay out of this because we are not experts I mean, it's just a different industry. I hope it makes it, yeah?
So you guys are managing all of the relationship of that content with the widgets on the pages?
Do we?
Are you managing all of the, you said you sent it off, right?
Yeah.
It came back translated. It actually, it replaced, it created another page, right?
Yeah, if you send the page, it's going to be, I mean, like, it's the same if you are working with an agency in the previous approach in Sitefinity where you are sending the files, I mean, in a specific format to an agency. They just do this manually, or I believe nowadays they do it like they have some kind of a service, they plug it there, someone goes, curate the content, then they send you back the content. But we're just trying to automate the process through the machine learning. So we are not, we are just plugging into the same flow that Sitefinity has. So we are not changing anything there. So to your question, when you send the page, it's going to translate all the content and the content lines. Good. Steve, you had a question?
I know, you actually answered it. The tail end of the last answer.
Okay, good. So the next part, the backend. Let me show this on, okay, that's not on full screen. Okay, I'll continue showing the slides this way. I think it's much easier to navigate. So the backend, if you remember at the beginning of the session, I showed you actually how the text is analyzed by some kind of a service. Some stuff popped out on the right side. So the question is how we are doing this. I mean, because the module actually is plugged into the Sitefinity engine, into the platform. So how we actually extend this part of Sitefinity? The answer is simple. This is JavaScript here. And I'm just wondering how many of you are aware that this part of Sitefinity here, it's the new content UI and actually relies on Angular. So there is no .NET stuff here. Are you aware of this?
Yes.
Okay, some of you are not, some. Okay, so with the new UI, actually we're just trying to use everything based on services and just to create something that is much faster. In general, how many, okay, you are aware of this, and did some of you implemented like a custom extension here? Did someone implemented something on top of this UI, or no? Okay, so that's the front part, how this works. Because this is an Angular application, the developers usually are very keen about new technology and all that stuff. So we're using the latest version of Angular. And what we created, there are separate sessions about this, actually how to create stuff into Sitefinity new backend UI. But the essence here is that there is a sample on GitHub called Sitefinity. Let me open my PC. It's called Sitefinity Extensions. I downloaded it. Sitefinity Admin App Extensions. And you just download this package at your PC. And you're saying npm. I already installed it, so I just say npm start. Actually, this runs a server for you and gets this part of Sitefinity that's a new UI. It runs this server and it acts like a separate application. So you're not doing anything in Sitefinity. You can implement all of that stuff, let's say in Visual Studio Code. You don't do any kind of changes into the backend core. And there are no gears, so because you're just developing separate. So we're just trying to decouple that stuff. How this works, actually this is powered by the all data services that we are providing. So if I open localhost 3000, I hope it's gonna work, fingers crossed. I already configured it to point to my URL of my instance of Sitefinity. And if you see here, I have all the content types, the dynamic content types, and the built one that are coming with Sitefinity. I can click News. And this same UI actually is the same what I showed you into the backend. So here, we are not providing you the whole source code of this implementation. We are providing you different extensibility plugs where you can change, let's say, the grid here, the menu here, or you can change the items inside. So you just run it, the extensibility points are inside, and you can choose where to plug your custom implementation. So in our case, I just plug a button. So the next question is how actually to run this stuff on Sitefinity. I mean, it's a separate application. You just type npm build. There is a file which is called extensions, or the name of the extension, which is generated in this distribution folder. And you copy paste actually those files into your Sitefinity admin app folder. And that's it. And it works. So any kind of a change that you want to do in the backend, it's to JavaScript about content creation. I think it's a really cool concept, and the engineers are putting great efforts there. Maybe that's why we're trying to gather more feedback and understand how people actually adopt it, because it's a very powerful approach, because we are decoupling the implementation of the backend from the engine of Sitefinity. So you don't need to do any kind of rebuilds and etc. So that's one approach. Usually when you implement the module, you have the APIs, the core stuff, and you just bundle it with this JavaScript, and here's your package, and here is your functionality and integration that is done. But there is another approach that you can do in the backend. I will open here the news. There is another approach actually, which when you install a module, it could automatically create a page into the backend of Sitefinity. And I already created a module using a data connectivity driver, which actually gets some data from Azure CRM and send it to Digital Experience Cloud. So I can actually augment my contact information with some data and provide more info for the marketers, let's say to target a specific persona, and etc. So the integration here is that I'm just connected to that driver. This is another product of ours actually. It's called Data Direct. The high-level explanation of this product is you have any kind of data source and you plug it to this driver, and it actually can generate all data APIs on top of your database. So what you need to know is all data, and then you can plug to whatever source you want. So that's actually the meaning of this sample. So I'm just plugged to some kind of a data and CRM that I don't even know how to work with it and anything. And after this, it exposes those data services, and I get this data and plug it into Digital Experience Cloud. So let me demonstrate this. Sure CRM, I can sync the contacts, and it's gonna take a few seconds. And all of this data will go into Sitefinity Digital Experience Cloud. So those are the samples how to extend the backend. Maybe this is, yeah?
So this page here, I know it's a custom page. You would just modify it in the same way that you would modify any other concept pages?
So you have two options. To modify to the UI, which is not so developerish. And the other option is actually to create a module which creates a page, because you can create a page with the API and you just plug your implementation. This is just a control. It can be script control, it could be MVC controller, it doesn't matter at the end. you plug whatever you want. In our case, this is just a JavaScript implementation for our convenience. So the next step, I've been talking a lot. I just want to ask if you have any questions until now. So now the fun part. Okay, we can forget all about what you can forget all about what I talked about. And now it's the fun part about packaging. So you have some kind of functionality, maybe it's already out there and you want to actually ship it not only to your customer base, but maybe you want to ship it to other partners and you want to sell it or whatever. So the next step actually is to package and distribute this. So there are two ways to package this. The first one is to develop everything into external assemblies and external projects. And this is, that's how you code actually in .NET. And then you can distribute to the different instances of Sitefinity. The other approach is add-ons. It's called add-ons. And this is what actually, it's a built-in functionality into Sitefinity where you can package content and functionality. For example, you want to create a module that is doing some kind of a job and you want actually to package it with some widgets or with some pages that you can reuse this functionality to another instances. I'll give you an example. Let's say I have several websites there maybe under one umbrella and I have the MailChimp connector and I have some pages that are created by the marketers. But I want to have the same look and feel everywhere. So I just use the add-ons functionality to export this content, the pages, and just to link the business functionality in terms of module. So all of this is packaged and you just plug it and import it into another system. So this way you go from site A to site B to site C and you just install this add-on and you have everything the same. And because this is based on nuggets, I'll show you this. It's based on nuggets. Actually, you can do upgrades with click of a button. So how this works? You're exporting the stuff into Sitefinity. And you generate a NuGet file. Once this is actually exported, you import it to every single instance. When you have a new version of the package, you have a new version of the NuGet, and then you distribute it to the new environment. So that's how you upgrade it. And this actually supports the continuous delivery process. And before we continue, the $1 million question. Do you know what this is? No, this was our previous marketplace, actually. And what we want to do now, actually, to have something much better. With the marketplace, we have now we completely wiped out the old marketplace, and we want actually to deliver state-of-the-art integrations and add-ons there. So we can grow together the community. So what are the benefits to be on the marketplace? As partners, this will drive business for you. For example, if you have exposure on the marketplace and you deliver your connector or your integration, it's good for you. It's gonna, people when they look for Sitefinity specific integration, they will have you as a reference. And also, if you wanna support the developer community, you can implement small widgets and stuff. I'll just open the marketplace web page. I think it's here. And you can submit here integrations and add-ons. So I was talking about the small widgets and stuff that it's very handy for developers. You can submit it, you can make a submission here, and then we can list it to, let's say, a GitHub repository where developers actually can go and start working with it. Our plan is not to create marketplace where people actually buying something with a credit card, because we don't want to pollute our marketplace with thousands of implementations like WordPress. I don't know how many of you are using WordPress, but I've tried to install some plugins, and I don't know how they work with other plugins. I don't know it's just a mess. It's just thousands of plugins, and it's really hard for anyone to understand, is this going to work for me? And how this is going to work with the overall product. So we are actually trying and aiming to bring the best integrations on the marketplace. And for you as partners, I think this will be a great opportunity to scale, because I'm sure that most of you currently are having some abstractions into Sitefinity implemented in a way that can scale for different cases. And for example, you are doing now this only for the next project, but think about how you can scale for multiple, to the whole network of Sitefinity. So I would say that's the end of my session. It's 3:15 almost. Do you have any questions, concerns? No, you just want to leave. Okay, so whatever you submit on the marketplace goes directly to me. And I can take it from there. We can have conversations about it, how we can expose it, how we can have marketing efforts, and how we can make you more successful. That's it. Thank you, guys.